everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome. I'm Donna Lynn Hilton, producer for Goodspeed Musicals, and welcome to In the Home Office with Goodspeed. You are here with me in my home office here in Hadline, Connecticut, only about 10 minutes away from the Goodspeed Opera House. I can't tell you how much I wish I were there and not here. And I have to tell you, who knew that not producing musicals would be more work than producing musicals? But I have a newsflash for you. It is. So got that out of my system. Okay. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a treat for those of you who were at our Festival of New Musicals. You're going to get to check in with some old friends. And for those of you who have not participated in the festival this past January, we're going to introduce you to a new show that we're really excited about. Couple of things. We do have the Q&A function activated tonight. So if you have any questions for me or for our panelists, you can enter them into the Q&A and we will try to get them into our conversation. And then I think we can get started. For those of you who have not joined us before, one of my jobs at Goodspeed is the maintenance of relationships with many writers, directors, choreographers, designers, all of the artists who make the wonderful work that we enjoy on both of our stages. And as part of that, I'm constantly on the phone or having lunch or having a coffee, or here lately doing a lot of Zoom conversations to find out how work is progressing. And tonight, I was actually, this spring, I was actually supposed to travel to London, Ontario to see the three writers that are going to join us tonight. Michael Pling, let's go ahead and bring Colleen, Akiva, and Matt into the conversation. I was looking forward to traveling to London, Ontario to the Grand Theatre this spring, where Grow was supposed to be in its world premiere. Hi, guys.
Hi. So good to see you.
It's good to see you guys, too.
Nice to see you. Yeah.
Is everyone doing all right?
Oh, yeah.
What does that even mean?
You can be after the musical you've been writing for years has been canceled, and it's like second preview or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't even get into our first rehearsal. We didn't even start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tragic. All right.
We got really close. We got real close.
Yeah. And you'll get there again. You will get there again. I know that. The show's too good for that. Where is everybody right now? Tell us where you are and how you're managing this situation. Colleen, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm in Toronto. I'm in a condo. I'm renting. I wasn't necessarily planning on being in Toronto for the entire summer originally, but I'm here now. So I've got a lovely little condo. I'm here with my dog, writing lots of songs and just trying to see friendly faces on the internet and doing some musical collaborations with a few different people. Luckily, sort of things have been going online more and more over the past few years. So I feel like we're at least a little more equipped to be connected, than maybe we would have been 5-10 years ago as writers. So that's been nice.
That's good. And Akiva, how about you? Where are you holding up right now?
I am in Toronto in my brother's basement, keeping cozy, being well fed, and just having as nice a time as I can.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah.
I'm actually in a place called Muskoka, which is northern Canada. It's about 3 hours north of Toronto, at a cottage up here. So I'm very fortunate because I have lots of nature and, I pass my days picking up sticks and doing yard work. And it's nice. It's nice to not be in my 400 square foot condo with no balcony in downtown Toronto right now.
Yeah. Good. Well, I'm glad to know that you're all safe. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. So Grow was presented as a staged reading during our 2020 Festival of New Musicals in January. But for some of our audience who may not have been there for that, let's take a step back. Tell us what the show's about.
Sure, I can jump in on that. So the show is about twin sisters Hannah and Ruth, who are on the brink of deciding whether or not to commit to their faith and the Amish church. And within the Amish culture, there's a practice known as Rumspringa, which is basically a hall pass that Amish youth can take advantage of or not, which is to go and experience life in the modern world before deciding to commit themselves to the faith forever. And so when we meet our girls, they've just recently turned 18. They're sort of getting a little bit long in the tooth for the going on Rumspringa, and also deciding whether or not to be baptized. And Hannah, the one sister, is very much like, I need to know what is out there before I commit. And she finagles her much more hesitant sister Ruth to come along with her to the dangerous city of Toronto, where they unknowingly start working at an illegal marijuana grow up, and that is, or cannabis grow up, I should say, and then all hell breaks loose, and we join them for their journey of self-discovery and also growing really, really good pot. Is basically
an illegal operation, but within a community where marijuana is legalized, correct?
Yeah. So Akiva, do you want to jump in on that, which is unique to our story?
Sure, yeah. As we've been writing this show, the status of legalization in Canada actually changed. So our show has changed significantly along with it. But yeah, it's currently federally legalized across Canada. So that changed the nature of our show, and it became more about like illegal versus corporate and legal and government controlled weed. And that factored into our story. And we also saw parallels between what's happening in the farming community, sort of like independent farmers being out-farmed by these big mega corporations. So yeah.
And Colleen, how would you describe the musical style of the show? I know you brought along a cool video that we're going to share in a little bit, but for those audience members who are not familiar with the show, how would you describe the musical style?
Yeah, well, so it was kind of a fun project for us because we got to marry two completely different sonic worlds. The first that we're more comfortable with being sort of contemporary pop musical theater. That takes place in Toronto. When the girls get to Toronto, it's very urban and fresh and fun. And then we try to, Akiva and I write music and Akiva writes lyrics, and we try to always write songs for our musicals that sound like something we'd want to hear on the radio or that we'd want to put on in the car and sing along with. So that's kind of the Toronto world sounds more like that. And then we also got to discover what we wanted the Amish world to sound like. And so we've listened to a lot of really interesting recordings of traditional songs that some Amish communities sing. And they don't use instruments or very, very rarely they'll maybe use, a harmonica or something, but they don't, it's not the same that we're used to in musical theater, having a whole orchestra to play with. So we really wanted to try to honor that in a way and simplify the music that was coming out of the scenes where we're in the Amish community. So it's a really fun balance of the two.
What is the instrumentation of the production?
Right now it's an 8-piece band, and we've got I always forget these things, but we've got 2 keyboards, drums, bass, violin, viola, I think, or violoncello. And I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but it's a pretty contemporary pop orchestra.
Yeah.
But for our music director, Wayne Willem, is a magician, and he has done some really cool things to really bring out, to use those instruments to bridge the gap between the Amish world and Toronto. So I love watching him do his thing. He's very brilliant.
Our audience is very familiar with how much magic can come out of an 8-piece band. I assure you, they're comfortable with that. Yeah. So, and how did this collaboration come about? Was this a commission? Had all of you worked together before?
Well, like a lot of musicals coming out of Canada these days, really, it was Michael Rubinoff at the root of it all.
Hi, Michael. I think he's listening tonight.
Hey, Michael. Um,
Hi.
So the very short story is that I had gone to Colleen and Akiva's first CMTP, which is the Canadian Music Theatre Project, which is an incubation lab that works out of Sheridan College, for those who don't know. And they did a workshop presentation of their show that is now titled The Louder We Get. And I thought it was fantastic. And it had just so happened that Colleen had seen a play of mine that was sort of running the circuit at that time called Myth of the Ostrich. And we both just loved each other's sensibilities. And Michael kind of matchmade us and said, you know, you guys should really chat. And then Akiva came into the mix, and we thought, yeah, let's just start to throw some ideas out there and see what happens. Is basically the first step.
Michael's a very good matchmaker with writers, with shows and producers, with shows and theaters. He's a very good matchmaker. And we thank you, Michael and Sheridan College, for your contribution to the musical theater world right now. It's just amazing. So you did a workshop here in January. You were here for 2 weeks with students from the Hart School and Boston Conservatory. If my memory serves me right, you did quite a bit of work during those 2 weeks. That culminated in one book in hand presentation of the show. So I guess the question is, what were your takeaways from that process that you took into preparations for the grand theater production?
I mean,
what was?
sorry. Yeah, you go.
I was going to say what was really useful to us was being able to track, because we had actually already cast our production at the Grand before we went into Goodspeed, so we could really track the tracks of the show, the sort of acting, the roles of the show, and with the actors in mind for the Grand, and yet also use these students' incredible uniqueness and abilities. So it was this interesting balance of figuring out how our show works in a bigger picture sense on the students, but knowing that we were writing for this greater goal later of the Grand. And the students were just so malleable and willing to try things. And yeah, we just really loved our cast and the experience and the whole support team at Goodspeed. And it really helped us like do that last step of refining the show before production. Yeah.
And did you make any changes? Go ahead. No, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was just going to say it was such a luxury that we were able to bring, that Dennis Garnham, our director, and Wayne Gwillem, who is our music supervisor and director, were able to come as well. So, and just like beyond the time in the room with the students, which of course was so valuable, was that we were just in East Haddam and we were in our house and we could really focus 24 hours a day on the work. And in such a, I'd said this to you 100 times with just how beautiful and comfortable the environment was. And it was just so conducive to us taking such huge leaps because we didn't have the noise of our outside lives. We could really just focus on it. And, we just, so many conversations, even just sitting and really talking through transition music and how much time we think we need, and having Dennis there to go, well, I'm thinking this is how this will flow. So that was so invaluable, was, beyond the script and the songs, was those in-betweens and those, the tracking and everything. It was really amazing.
And were there any significant changes between the presentation we saw that Sunday afternoon and what you were ready to go into rehearsal with? Were there any big changes to the show? For our audience that knows the show, they might be interested in that, because I know quite a few of them were planning to come up to see the production.
Oh my goodness, that would have been so nice. We miss you
Colleen,
all.
do you want to talk about where we got to after?
Yeah, well, I'll at least speak about sort of music-wise. We really wanted to refine and zone in on what is the tone of our piece. And I mean, that's just a thing, sort of not just music-wise, but in terms of the entire piece. And that's something that we as writers struggle with kind of all the way along writing a piece, is making sure that when you come in and sit in your seat, you understand in the first 5 minutes, like what kind of a show you're seeing. And for us, we knew we had a challenge because we basically set ourselves up with a show that starts in one world, in the Amish world, and then continues onto a completely different world. So we knew we had to keep refining that. So actually the very, very opening, anything you hear in the whole piece, it starts with a bit of a hymn that we wrote for the Amish community to sing. And we actually realized that hymn had lasted a pretty long time in the show, but it just wasn't quite saying the right thing. It wasn't quite setting up the community aspect and really what we wanted to portray. So Akiva and I, right after we finished Goodspeed, we then went to Calgary where we had an opening of our other show, The Louder We Get. But then after that, we sequestered ourselves. We went to LA actually, and got a little apartment there, and we decided to go through all of the music things that we wanted to sort of polish up and change before the Grow production. And we wrote a new hymn that completely replaced that original one. And I was getting so excited to hear it in on real voices.
Yeah.
But that will have to wait. Guys, do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I was gonna say we're looking also at changing the finale a little bit, and it's just one of those things, like as the show evolves, the beginning and the ending are become the trickiest thing to recalibrate as you're figuring out what your show is. So I think we're looking at redoing. I sort of owe Colleen and Matt a set of lyrics that I just haven't had the heart to dig back into this show yet, because it just reminds me of the production that never happened. But I'm due for a rewrite of the final song.
Yeah. We'll let you have that. It's okay to mourn that. Sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
It was so helpful too, because for those who don't know the experience of working through the festival, you're also are gifted a dramaturg who is like a script doctor for musicals, and Annika Chapin is the in-house dramaturg for us. And it was so nice too, because as you said, you build to this presentation, and then you get one shot out of the cannon, which is thrilling and terrifying. And there's so much to be learned and mined, because in the incubator of the creation, you learn so much about your show, and you get to see it through the new eyes of the Hart School and the Boston Conservatory cast members. But I'm such a firm believer, you don't really learn anything about your show until you see it in front of that audience, and you can feel how it ebbs and flows and where things land and where those emotional pivots are. And it was so great because Annika was super generous, and 2 weeks after we came back, we were able to do a really, really detailed postmortem with her and talk about the themes and talk about those things that maybe didn't seem all that clear. And that ended up being super valuable in just to piggyback on reimagining that opening, really just focusing it with laser precision. Who are these characters? What do they want? Which is always the question in musicals, but sometimes you have to really see it in a room full of people to go, oh, that felt muddy. I don't know why, but it just was. And so the script actually, I think, took a really significant bump in the weeks after, because it was so revelatory to watch that presentation for us.
Great. That's great to hear. I will add to our audience, Annika is a brilliant dramaturg, and I'm not just saying that because she's probably listening right now. But if you are going, what does a dramaturg do? I would advise you to take a listen to the In the Spotlight podcast that we have Goodspeed has been producing over the last 6 to 8 weeks. We've dropped 4 episodes, I think, now, and in each of them, Annika does a really deep dive into the dramaturgy of a song lyric, and it's absolutely stunning. And it's like diagramming sentences, but with a beautiful song, the way that she does it. And it's and I always love diagramming sentences, and so it's really, really informative. If you just wonder what is that, what is that work, the knowledge that it's required is really showcased in those podcasts. So I recommend you take a listen. You can find them
to that.
on you can find them on a Goodspeed website or anywhere that you find podcasts. Just search Goodspeed and you'll come to it. iTunes. Michael Fling is saying iTunes. Thank you, Michael. All right, let's get to the song because that's why people sign in. So you brought along a video. Set it up for us, please.
Sure. The video itself was the first thing I managed to bring myself to do after we found out about the lockdowns. It came about because it's a song from the show Grow, which I'll tell you about in a second, but there's an initiative here in Canada started by a writer named Nick Green in Toronto who started this festival called the Social Distancing Festival. Once we were all told we're supposed to socially distance, and we all found out that all the festivals and things we were supposed to be participating in were no longer in existence. So anyway, he reached out to me and said, is there anything you can share? And I was like, well, I'm still coming down off this high of being at Goodspeed. And there was a brand new song that we had written that Goodspeed was the first audience to ever hear that song. So I thought that would be a really fun one to do. So that's how this video came about. I will do the disclaimer that it was on a piano that's a little bit out of tune, but there was no way to get a piano tuner because we were all locked down. So it's one of those, like, you just work with what you got. But I was really lucky to be able to play a piano at all. I can't imagine being locked down somewhere with no piano. That would have been terrible. Anyways, so this song is called The One I Choose, and it's actually a duet that happens in Act 2 between one of our main character girls, Ruth, and her co-worker at this marijuana grow up, and her sort of love interest, whose name is Score. And it comes at a really tricky time when she feels like she should probably go home. There's been a lot of things that have happened in Toronto, and she's just feeling torn apart, and her sister has gone missing, and she feels like she needs to go home and sort it all out. And he wants her to stay with him because he's finally found someone who makes him feel like he's home. So it is a duet, although probably in the show, probably 75% of the song is sung by Score to Ruth, and then she joins in with harmonies. So you won't hear the harmonies, but you'll still get the gist of the song because I sing it all by myself in this video.
All right, written at Goodspeed. Go ahead, Michael
Enjoy.
Fling, whenever you're ready.
Never thought I had a future. I was hiding from my past. I was lost without a purpose. I was heading nowhere fast. But now you make me want to try. You give me hope I can't deny. You become my savior and my muse. I'm constantly amazed by you and how you changed my point of view, embracing every scar and every bruise. I have been searching for a reason to believe, and you are the one I choose. You were feeling so unwanted, overlooked for way too long. You were searching for acceptance and a place you could belong. Then you arrived and it was clear that you were meant to end up here to share the gift that you were born to use. I had no faith before you came, but now I'll never be the same. You opened up my heart and lit a fuse. If you were looking for a reason, you should stay. Let me be the one you choose. I choose to be more patient like you taught me. I choose to be more open to surprise. I choose to see the beauty all around me, 'cause now I see the world through your eyes. You show me what it means to feel something so pure, a love so real. That's a feeling I can't bear
you so much for sharing that. And what a beautiful performer you are. I don't know that I've experienced that before.
Multi-talented.
Oops.
It's always amazing to watch her in rehearsals. Like, there's always a moment where the cast first hears her sing, and they're like, there's these looks that they give each other that I always watch for. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
wow. Thanks,
It's
guys.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And a beautiful video, and so a beautiful song and beautifully presented in this moment. So thank you so much for sharing that. Let me
Thanks
see.
for letting us share.
I have a question. Let me see. Oh, so Lynn Davis says amazing. So thank you, Lynn. We're glad you enjoyed it. I do.
Thank you.
So do you guys have any idea what's next? Is it just too soon to know is the Grand going to be able to undertake the production again? Too soon to know?
I don't think we know the specifics of that yet, of whether the Grand or not, but I know the Grand has definitely shown their support, and I know they're trying their damnedest to try and make it work.
Yeah.
But the good news is that we also have Michael Rubinoff and sort of a group of commercial investors attached to the show.
Yes.
So we have faith that it will happen. We just are figuring out when
Yeah.
right now.
We have to be patient. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Good.
we'd love for it to be the Grand, but if they can make that work. But if not, we know it'll find a home someday.
It will. It's too good not to.
Well, the good news is the word on this, we're calling it a postponement.
Yes. There's a lot of that going around.
So that that leaves things nice and open and optimistic.
That's right.
Much more optimistic word.
That's right. All right, guys. I think Michael Rubinoff says, yes, it is not canceled. He's endorsing the postponement phrase. So we hear you, Michael. Yes, sir. Postponed. Yes. All right. Guys, thank you so much. I said we'd keep this to about a half an hour, and I don't want to keep it too long. But thank you so much. It's great to see your faces, and thank you for sharing that beautiful song. To our audience tonight, I'll say, if you love new work, please join us here every Thursday night for the foreseeable future. We'll be talking to a different fabulous team of writers sharing beautiful work with us every Thursday night. I can tell you that next Thursday, I have to appear on someone else's show. So Annika will be here, and her guest is going to be Marshall Palett, the author of Private Gomer that was part of our festival. A beautiful new piece. If our audience has not heard of it, you're going to want to tune in. It's a really special show. And you're invited to come see the Grand one day, audience. Everyone's invited. Dennis is tuned in to say, please come up and see them when things get back to normal. And lastly, thank you to all of the members who have contributed their ticket refunds back to Goodspeed. New work is risky, it's expensive, and we wouldn't be here were it not for your support. So thank you so much. If you want to do more, you can go to goodspeed.org and make a contribution. Thank you so much. And you can also access earlier episodes of In the Home Office that you may have missed. We've been at this for about a month now. So if you enjoyed what you saw tonight, you can check out other episodes in our archive at goodspeed.org. All right, guys, thank you so much. Stay well. And I look forward to welcoming you back to Goodspeed on the other side of this. Okay.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Oh, and
Bye-bye.
I will, Donna Lynn, I'll just, if anyone wants to see that video again or see, not have, I don't know, share it or whatever, it's on YouTube. So you can just Google, or YouTube Colleen and Akiva or Grow the Musical, and it should show up. So
great. Wonderful. All right. Good to know. Thank you, guys. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.